Yeah. All right. So it is 5 o'clock, and I will call the meeting for the Hood Central Appraisal District to order. Notice was sent out about our meeting being today, the 21st, at the Appraisal District Office at 1902 West Pearl Street. We do have a quorum minus Mark McDonald at the moment. Did anybody want to talk? Nobody signed in. I know y'all are here to do other stuff. Y'all good?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So there's no public comments, so we will move on to our action items. First are there any questions on the consent agenda items for minutes, financial statements, and approved payments to Pritchard and Abbott?
I want to say one thing about the minutes, and I want to say thanks to Richard. Richard found a couple little typos
Okay.
in the minutes, contacted Meg, and the minutes that we put out in the packet, the initial packet, he found some corrections that need to be made, but
Awesome.
she's made them. And what's in this packet is the corrected minutes. So
Okay.
what you would be approving is a corrected minute.
Okay. Can handle that.
And thanks to Richard.
But it was just typo stuff.
Just typo.
Then I'm good there. If nothing of substance changed
No.
from what we read earlier, then I'm still good. All right.
So I'll move to approve the consent action items as presented.
We have a second. Second, John. So we got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. Blah blah blah. Been a month and 2 months, so I'm out of practice here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Vote is unanimous. The consent items are passed. All right. So first item on our general items. First item on general items. All right. Did you turn on the recording?
Yeah.
Great. I'm making fun of that now. Might as well have fun with it, right? All right. So action on the auto renewal and discussing contract with Leidenberger Firm.
Yes, this is an action item that Mr. Hayes had kind of asked it to be put on there. So if I don't mind, I'd just like to turn it over to Richard, maybe get some of his thoughts on what needed to be discussed and have a general discussion. We'll go from there.
We signed a contract, the collections contract with Lineberger back in 2013. It's an initial 5-year term. It's an evergreen contract, so automatically renews annually if we don't take action or they don't take action. And it's been going on for 13 years now, relatively well. We're happy with it from an appraisal district.
Mm-hmm.
I had requests from both Mayor Jarrett and Commissioner Eagle that we look at it and consider bidding it out. Just on a general principle that we should look at it every once in a while. I had some comment that Melanie Graft, our district court clerk, had some concerns about it. I spoke with her, and she thought that perhaps the communications could be better, that it gave some challenges to her office with open cases that were under payment plans that hadn't been communicated to her office. So a minor thing.
Okay.
I also was asked to talk to Constable Jordan, and he's very happy with working with Lineberger.
Yeah.
So there's no particular unhappiness with the contract, just a desire under good governance to bid it out and see if it still makes sense after 13 years to use Lineberger, or if we should look at other firms.
Okay. And that's always something that we should look at. So when does the contract renew? Is it up like today? Or
No, it's not up until November the 30th.
Okay,
of
good,
2026.
good. That was my other concern, is if it's up in June, then we're in trouble. But if November, we got time.
Oh, okay. We got lots of time.
Okay.
Yeah, that contract that we initially signed was, I think it went into effect December the 1st of 2013.
Okay.
And then it expired on November the 30th of 2014. But then there's that clause in there that it says if neither party seeks to terminate it, then it automatically renews year after
60
year.
days notice to terminate.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And when you say put it out for bid, my thought would be, if we want to talk the proper terms, in my opinion, anytime you hire an attorney, you don't go out for bids necessarily, because you don't go out and say, hey, how much will you charge me to defend this lawsuit? I don't know, might
Right.
take us an hour, might take us 1,000 hours.
A little bit of a trick
You
question.
go out and you say, you know, look, we're looking for somebody that can provide a service or something. So really for attorneys or something like that, you might want to go out for a request for qualifications and look to see, you know, hey, tell us who you are, what you do, how you do it, who your clients, who your references, tell us all about your qualifications. And then the board could say, you know, based upon these qualifications, you know, we'll select this firm. You know, I had times in the past where questions were, well, what about a lawyer? You know, about getting bids from lawyers. And if we had an instance where maybe we had like a sexual harassment claim or something, and we don't have someone that specializes necessarily in HR law on staff, we got some people we could read, but maybe we needed to get an HR lawyer like right now. It's not something you want to go out and get bids on. You want to go hire a lawyer to come in and help you represent you and you know, hopefully get a reasonable price and things like that. So sometimes when you need a lawyer, you need one now. And so I think that kind of helps us not have to go through a bid process as opposed to maybe RFQ qualifications type process, because they're all going to operate under the same law. I mean, the Purdue firm and the Lineberger firm, they're all playing by the same rules. We turn over our file to them all at the same time. I'll give you an idea, and it's kind of part of my collections report, but since we're talking about this, I'll go ahead and give it to you now. As of right now, May of 2025, we've collected 97.457, 97.5% of the taxes in Hood County have been collected.
Good.
But we don't turn the delinquent tax roll over to any law firm until July the 1st. And typically, by the time we get to the end of June, we'll probably be sitting right at 98% collected. I like to tell people all the time, especially elected officials, there's a group of people out here that are going to pay their taxes. They always pay their taxes. And then there's a group of people in this end over here that are not going to pay their taxes. They're never going to pay their taxes. Those are the ones that wind up properties being sold on the courthouse steps. But then this group right in here, they're the people who forgot to pay their taxes on January 31st. They're the people who are maybe a little bit behind. There are people that may be down on their luck just a little bit, need a little bit more time. And usually it's that group of people that any of the law firms can go out and try to persuade them to get their taxes paid. Maybe it's a threat of a lawsuit. Maybe it's a threat of foreclosure. Maybe it's just a phone call saying, hey, you need to pay, penalty and interest are getting high. Well, when we turn these over to the lawyers, we're already 98% collected, and there's only 2% left, and we know there's a certain part of them that aren't going to pay at all.
Aren't going to pay no matter what.
Yeah, and I had Susan look into it. 190 accounts are deferred. They're over 65 deferrals, and they don't have to pay.
Right.
So it's actually, I think Hood County is a really, really good example of a county and a group of public individuals that do a great job of getting their taxes paid on time. And so whatever the board chooses to do, you know, we will comply. You know, we'll do RFQs and things of that nature if we need to, if that's what your desire would be. But I know both the Purdue firm and the Lineberger firm. I've been in this business long enough. I know they're all good. When I was at Tarrant County, a chief appraiser up there, about, I'm going to be off on my math, but probably close to 2/3 of the client taxing units up there, Lineberger represented, and probably maybe a little bit more. But what would that be? 5/8, 3/8? A little bit. It might be 5/8 that Lineberger did and 3/8 that Purdue did.
Yeah.
And I know they've Purdue's handled. When I worked in Johnson County, they did everything pretty much in Johnson County at the time. So, but that brings in just a little bit more perspective. That I think the good thing about Hood County is that Hood County pays.
Right.
There's not a lot of low-hanging fruit, if you want to refer to it as that. Whenever they start working on it, it's people that are either in that they're just not going to pay, or there's just a few left that can pay, because everybody else pretty much pays their taxes on time.
Okay. So, in general questions, you're right. You don't want to go to just an attorney. You want a firm that's doing this type of work. But from what you're saying, there's mainly in North Texas. There's two.
Well, actually, though, no, there's really more than that, because you got the Lineberger firm, you got Purdue, you got McCreary, Vassalka, Bragg, and Island, And then there's a handful of law firms out there that just do kind of one-off type things. For example, there's a firm out of McKinney that does work in Collin County, pretty much exclusively. These guys know their competition better than I do.
Right.
But
Of course,
yeah,
as you should.
there are really three big firms that I would Linebarger, Purdue, and McCrae MBBA. We refer to them as.
Okay.
So, and they're all good law firms, in my opinion. I've worked with all of them. More on the litigation side, especially with Purdue and with MBBA. I've worked with them closely on that side of it. When I was here the first time, Purdue or Linebarger was the delinquent tax attorney that we had then, and they have been ever since. And I'm not aware of any displeasure that staff has.
Yeah.
We haven't had any issues that would merit us even thinking about the 60-day. I know that the mayor has expressed some concerns over auditors. That maybe ever so often, you get to bring in a new auditor, have them look at the books, and maybe they look at the books a little different way than the last audit. That makes sense to me. I can understand that. Law firm, I think it comes down to techniques that one firm uses to collect versus the techniques that another firm uses to collect. They're all still in the property tax code, but that I think is where if they were to come in and bid, they'd say we can do it better this way. Well, we can do it better this way, and we can do it better this way, and then. But we've been satisfied with.
And not having the contract in front of us, what are our annual costs?
Good question.
In theory.
And the question is,
and you probably have it right there with you, but
the answer is zero.
Okay.
Because the thing about a collections contract like this,
that's kind of what I'm going after there.
The delinquent taxpayer is the one that pays all the fees.
Like a credit report. Once it goes to collections, you bought it off the first person.
Yeah. When we hire either firm, it won't cost the appraisal district or the tax communities any money whatsoever. They get paid by the delinquent taxes that they collect, and they're paid a percentage of the base tax that's due, the penalties, and the interest that's due.
Okay.
They're paid a percentage on all three of those components.
Okay.
And that's how they collect their money. We collect it for them, and then we turn around and we disperse what goes to the county, the city, the school, and then what goes to the law firm.
Okay.
On that basis.
So, based on what you said, although we don't pay, we do lose. We don't, but the entities lose a little bit because they get a percentage of the tax that's collected.
Because let's say $1,000 is due. I'm just going to make up some numbers.
Yeah.
There's $1,000 base tax. There's $100 penalty, and there's $50 in interest.
Right.
The 20% for the collection fee gets added to all of that. So the taxpayer winds up owing like $1,350 of my.
Yeah,
I don't do math. You're not supposed to do math in public,
right?
So $1,350 or so.
Yeah.
The taxpayer is the one that's paying it.
Okay.
The school gets their portion.
So it's not messing with the true tax number. It's on top of.
It's in addition to.
That's one of the other questions I wanted to make sure we were, discussing.
It's in addition to. So,
Richard, could you explain a little bit more about what caused the questions? Why was there a question?
I think it's just a desire for looking at old contracts.
All contracts.
I mean, I remember Pritchard and Abbott, when we renewed them, Jack Wilson said we should take a look at them just because we've been using them for so many years. Just good business, good governance to look at contracts every once in a while and see if it's still the right firm for us.
Yeah, and speaking with regards to like mineral appraisers, in all the years I've been doing this, where I see that contract flipping and changing is either one of two things. One of the mineral contracting companies will make a big mistake, and I've seen it to where we have Pritchard and Abbott. I've seen Pritchard and Abbott lose a contract to Capital because maybe they forgot to pick up a big power plant or something. And I've seen Capital lose a contract to Pritchard and Abbott because Capital did something that they forgot to do something.
They missed the gas well.
They do something, they make a big mistake, and they're like, "Oh, it's time to change." And I've seen them. There's another firm called Wardlaw. There's another firm called T.Y. Pickett. There's about 4 appraisal mineral companies like that. But when they switch, It's generally because a big mistake's been made.
No request came to me to change.
Right.
The request was
Okay.
we should go out for RFQ and see if this is, we still want to use Lineberger or not.
Okay. I don't have any, everybody in the office has been happy with them. But I also understand that sometimes we do have to look at other scenarios. So I'm not against it.
Well, I mean, I'm not against it either. I have zero complaints whatsoever with Linebarger.
Yeah.
I've not worked with the Purdue collection side like I have the Linebarger side, but I have worked with the Purdue litigation side. I got a long history with Robert Mott and Chris Jackson on and David Tabor on the litigation side, and good firm. Both I believe both firms are good firms.
And question for you: does this put any undue effort on you and your staff to do an RFQ?
Well, we would have to develop an RFQ. We would have to go find maybe a template of some sort, because we haven't done a collections RFQ in forever, probably. At least in my recent memory, we haven't done so. So we would have to develop that. And I would say if we were going to develop it, we would probably develop it sometime later in the year, to where if you're going to make a change, it would most likely be like effective in the 2027 tax collection season, because literally in a little over a month, we're going to be handing over the delinquent roll to the attorneys.
I know such intent to
So
do anything this year.
I would say it would be predicated based upon that effective date of November the 30th or something like that. So we would probably have to get started on something in August, September if we were going to do an RFQ. But then, like I said, we would have to develop the RFQ. And of course, I would probably come back to the board and say, okay, what are some of the things that you want to look at and compare in evaluating two different law firms, or 3 or 4 law firms. I don't know who all. I mean, if we send this out, most likely what I would do, I like to do this just so we get interest and say, here, Linebarger, here's an RFQ, here's Purdue, MVBA, here's a RFQ, and just get as many law firms, coming in and looking at it as possible. But the main thing would be development of the RFQ, and then deciding what are the major issues that we want to look at and consider. Because again, they're all operating under the same law.
And I think that may be the hard part for us right now is we don't have a pain.
Yeah.
We're not.
There's no emphasis.
Right. So that while we may still want to do this, that may be the hard part as we're putting this RFQ together. We don't have a struggle at the moment. Everybody.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I brought up the Pritchard and Abbott thing. And
Yeah.
Again, it's like because I've seen that happen.
Right. Oh yeah.
They switch contracts because somebody made a mistake.
Yep.
And I can't point to anything that. I mean, I know that Marcus went down and spoke with Melanie about some of the things that.
Okay. Good.
I don't know if you want to hear from him or not. It's
Well, that's what. Can I?
Yeah,
Sure.
you can. I mean, it's
Please.
an action
Okay, that was one of the questions that I didn't know outside of the board could speak. So please,
Absolutely.
thank you for joining us.
No, thank you, Mark. And that. But I did have a conversation with Melanie. There's been times where we file the cases and then work it through. Cammie is the person that we deal with Melanie's office, and Shannon is here tonight. She's also in constant conversations with Cammie on how things are going, making sure communication is kind of free flowing, but from them and from us as well. The thing I can tell you from conversations with Cammie, even within the recent months, statements made is that she's as happy as she's ever been with us moving cases through the docket. It's a deal to where I met with Melanie and Cammie within the last month and a half, probably, and sat down and said, how are we doing? Anything else we need to be attending to? And there was a discussion probably about timing of filing our cases, because it is a deal to where Cammie's job is kind of split now. She's handling jury services plus handling our cases that get filed and moving them onto a docket and moving through that process. Mm-hmm. And the timing of when we file them was discussed, and we've actually lined out a schedule, which she's a big fan of knowing when they're coming in and when to expect, our filings. And I think that's helped a lot. I think it helps her plan out her schedule a little bit more. I actually looked at Melanie as well, and I said, is there anything else you want to see out of our office in handling these? And the answer was pretty much no. It was a deal to where, she defers to Cammie a lot. What she's got a lot on her plate. I completely respect that.
Yeah.
Her ability to defer to Cammie on that, and then our communications with Cammie, I think, have improved a lot. It's a time where the district clerk in my entire legal career is an important part of the process of keeping on a position to where they're heard and making sure we're attentive to what's being said. And I think we've done a very good job of that.
Okay.
I think the docket is in as good a shape as it's been in a long time. We've moved a lot of cases through it. We've also changed a few of our processes where our title research isn't taking as long as it used to. It's sped up the time that we're able to get a case ready for judgment. We've also stopped the kind of the practice of holding up a case when it's in a payment plan. And now it's a deal to where if we've initiated a suit and we're moving it through the process, we're in constant communication the entire time trying to get the delinquency resolved. Now we're not going to wait anymore, waiting for a payment plan or saying a payment plan puts a stop on it, basically. Mm-hmm. Now we're still going to move it so that the court's docket doesn't inflate, and it's streamlined things a lot.
Okay.
And I think that's helped a lot. I think Melanie and Cammie were fans of that idea so that Judge Buffkin doesn't look at his docket and see it rising because of these payment plans being entered into. And we're upfront and honest about it, of telling the taxpayer, just because we take this judgment, it doesn't do anything to this payment plan.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah. And so that we're able to take or set up the payment plan, move it towards, because the ultimate goal is to get paid. Mm-hmm. Make no mistake about that. The judgment and then the ultimate tax sale is something that happens when it just doesn't get paid. That's a part of what we do. But our ability to continue through to a judgment and not hold it up due to a payment plan has streamlined things a lot. I think there's 416 cases right now pending at the court. I think 116 of those are 2026 filings. We've taken around 74 judgments this year, and we filed around 216 cases since July of last year.
Okay.
Like Jeff talked about that turnover. That's when we go to work on things. There's actually a little bit of an early turnover scenario for business personal property. That happens earlier in the year. But as far as filing cases and the way we track our amounts, and we filed 216, and it really puts about 200 to 250 cases in the working stage that aren't being finalized or having just been filed. And so for the size of Hood County and the amount of cases and the delinquency of the 2% that gets turned over to us, it's still a good bit of work. Mm-hmm. And so our ability to streamline that process, I'm not trying to take up the whole meeting. So
you're good. No, this is what we want to hear.
But it allows us to make sure we're doing the job we need to be doing. I think it's very easy to hear like a sales pitch saying, hey, we can do things better. Mm-hmm. Right? I think that the hard thing is to do the job every single day and do it to a level to where there's no complaint. There's no one saying anything's broken. There's no one saying things need to be better. And I think that is important. But if there's ever a time to look at it, then sure, you can check our papers. But I think you're going to find out it's done very well. And I'm very proud of the relationship we have with Hood County. One thing I wanted to add, it's not really on that topic. In 2018 or 2017 was when the county took back the collections.
Yeah.
And that was when they actually put out a request for bids. And it was submitted, and Linebarger actually did the delinquent tax collections for the county while still doing it for the CAT. But that was a bid process. And we won that and were trusted to do the county's delinquent tax collections in 2018. So the idea that it's never really been kicked around, the idea that good governance, I completely understand that thought process. But it was evaluated and decided on in 2018 for the county's perspective. Mm-hmm. So if for whatever that's worth, for the evaluation of things that you're making, I want to make sure you had that. The conversations I had with Melanie, from that meeting, I didn't walk out with any concerns from her on her end and from Cammie, plus the continuing relationship we've done since then. Want to be responsive to the question, but anything else y'all want to know about this?
For me, that helps. Y'all have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I think that's a pretty good job helping us out.
Sure.
Just understanding that part of the process is very helpful to know, especially when you said, well, we're going to keep working the payment plans through, but we're, that way the docket doesn't blow up on the guys.
Yeah, ultimately it's a collections process. And there are multifacets that go into it. There's times when someone has to understand it's time to either get in the payment plan and move forward, or it's time to do something to get it back on the tax roll to make it productive.
Yep.
And I think we've done a very good job at that.
And I know I'm in the mortgage business, so
Sure.
that is definitely a process. And the last thing tends to be when you quit talking to someone is when it moves to the bad side of steps.
Absolutely.
So, and I tell homeowners that all the time when they call me. I'm like, keep talking to the foreclosure side. Ask for this.
Yes.
Talk to them about that, because the minute you quit picking up the phone is when things go bad.
Yeah.
So,
And when a judgment is taken and it comes time for sale, you also see as well, like, we're going to get this done.
Yeah.
And then we'll see obviously collections uptick whenever there's a tax sale coming out. We've had 2 this past year. We're going to know what's it.
And another good thing about a lot of our tax sale, a lot of times it's vacant properties. We're not
Empty lots.
We're not taking too many houses that people are being asked to get out.
yeah.
We're not taking many of those, if any. I don't think there've been any since I've been here.
The last tax sale we had, I think every single property was a vacant property.
That's what I always see in the newspaper. Vacant lot, vacant lot,
Yeah.
vacant lot.
Yeah.
So,
And those are easy to deal with.
Yeah.
I had some. I wasn't the assessor collector back in the days when I was in Tarrant County, but I saw some that they went on the courthouse steps and they were sold, and there was some little old man there who's like, "What exactly is happening here?"
yeah.
I'm like, "Well, we're selling your house."
Oh, yeah.
That was Wendy Burgess, Ron Wright's. Maybe we did that particular time. I didn't. I was really glad that I was just the old chief appraiser
Right,
in
yes.
the other office. It can
Okay.
be the ugly part of
Thank
that.
you.
No, absolutely. And like I said,
Yeah.
always available. If anybody else
Oh,
has
yeah.
any questions, even after this, call me. I'll answer anything I can.
Appreciate you greatly.
Appreciate
And thank you all for being here.
Now, a comment that I have read through the contract, I was surprised how short it was. I was a contract manager for the Coca-Cola company, and we couldn't do a short contract.
Yeah. Well, I guess the good thing is because there's so much in statute that lays out how this process will work, how they get paid and all that sort of stuff. So it's just more just kind of a paper handling process on our side. We have the rollover and then they take it from there.
Well, and I guess that's part of the hard part of an RFQ in this situation is a lot of it's based on that relationship of being able to walk in, taking the initiative to walk into somebody's office.
Mhm.
Hey, how's it going? What can we fix? So those things are always appreciated.
So if there are no more questions, I'd like to maybe throw out an idea of how this action item could be handled.
Okay.
One, I think the board could just simply, take no action.
Yeah.
And just let it pass for now. I think you could, if you wanted to table it, I think you need to table it until another meeting timeframe, like the November meeting, the August meeting, the September meeting. Table it until then it can be resurrected. Of course, if you took no action now, you could always come back and say, "Hey, put on the November meeting. We're going to talk about this again." So, or you could take action now to say, "Yes, I think I'll make a motion that we go out for bids, do an RFQ in November, September, whatever the proper time frame would be," which needs to be before November.
Yeah.
Probably more like September.
September.
So I think those are kind of your
Because you
three
don't want
options.
because then we're also getting into the budgeting time too. So,
Yeah, either take action to do RFQs, take no action, or table this until a meeting later in the year. I think those would be your three options.
My question, if we were to take no action, could, and this is just me asking questions, not making sure I'm following the process correctly.
Mhm.
That means nothing's done
Nothing's done today.
But that doesn't mean somebody couldn't work up an RFQ to bring back to a meeting in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And what I would probably recommend would be,
Because that would be my thought is
Just
don't
like-
take any action, but maybe we
just
put
like
an RFQ
Richard
together.
did. Richard, at the end of our meeting, every item says any future agenda items. And
Right.
Richard brought this one up. We put it on there, and anybody else could do that again in our July, August meeting. So hey, I think we ought to put this back on there, and then maybe then consider taking action. Have a motion and a second, and then a vote, whatever the case may be, and then. So I think all three of those options are available: to do nothing, to table it, or to somebody make a motion and
So
see if it gets a second.
It was your request.
My request.
So I'm going to lean to you to what direction you would like to take.
You know, if we go out for RFQ, it makes more work for the staff here. We don't really gain a whole lot.
Very true.
The fact that there seems to be movement with the clerk's office, I'm going to move that we table this to our next regular meeting.
Okay.
That'll give me time to go back and talk with Melanie again.
Of course. I like that. Okay.
I'll second.
So I've got a motion and a second that we table this action item to our next meeting.
Yeah, which is
I'm not going
be-
to put.
gonna
I'm not
be
going to.
June, our
well-
June meeting.
We may have a June. You know, if nothing
I
gets
guess we
skipped.
could have our next regular meeting
Next
or our
regular
next
meeting.
call meeting.
Let's say next called meeting.
Next call, well, okay, well, I mean, I don't plan a called meeting unless we just happen to have
What I'm saying is, if we don't have a June meeting,
we will.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Then
will
our
have a
next
Ju-
meeting.
Yeah, we will have a June meeting.
Okay.
Why don't you amend it to say our next regular meeting, which would be June?
I'll amend the motion to our next regular meeting, which is June.
Yeah.
Are you good with that?
Second.
Second's good with that. So motion is that we table this until our next regular meeting in June. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Votes unanimous. We're going to table it to our next meeting. All right. Our next agenda item is to take action and consider any changes to the district's TCDRS, District Texas County and District Retirement Systems Retirement Plan for 2027.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeff?
Every year, the board has to sign a document that says, here's what we want in our retirement plan. I was going to call it the Texas Counties, Districts, and Retirement System is what the TCDRS stands for. But every year, the board has to sign off on a document. And basically it says, do you want to leave all the plans exactly the way it is now, or do you want to make changes? And so what I've listed here are some of the things that the board can look at and consider making changes to. One of them is retirement eligibility. One of them is COLA, or cost of living adjustment.
Mhm.
One of them is the required rate, which TCDRS calculates. One's an elected rate, additional contributions, then our unfunded liability and our funded ratio. If you'll look at the page that we provided to you, this is our current 2026 plan. Employee deposit rate, 7%, that's set by state law. So
Okay.
that one we don't have to change. Matching employer, that is something that the district could change if they wanted. I think we started out at 150. Now we're at 200% match. We could go as high as 250.
Okay.
I'm not recommending that we change that. Prior year service credit, that's 90%. That was set by prior boards. I don't think we could change that because it's already been set.
Okay.
But when you get into this retirement eligibility, you have this 10 years of service, 80 years total age plus service, or 30 years of service. I'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
Partial lump sum, optional benefits. We don't have any lump sum amounts. We don't have any optional, life insurance or anything like that through them. And then you get into that retirement plan funding, which basically comes down to that required rate. In 2026, we have a required rate of 11.18%. We can't change that because it's calculated by TCDRS. But that elected rate down below it, that is something we can choose, which would mean that instead of saying, well, we want to elect a 8% rate, can't do that, but we can elect a 15% rate.
Right.
We can pay more into the system, but we have to pay a minimum of 11.8.
Okay.
We'll come back. I'll kind of come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
So we have an 11.18% rate that we're paying. And then you get down and look at that valuation results. The actuarial accrued liability is $4.5 million. The actuarial value of assets is $4.2 million. So that basically tells us that we have an unfunded liability of $362,000.
Okay.
Okay, and we're 92.1% funded. So think of that actuarial accrued liability of $4,564,000. In essence, what that boils down to is that's like the amount of money that's in our trust account, the TCDRS trust account. And if every one of the employees were to be eligible to retire and they calculated the benefits, It's almost as if TCDRS would go out and buy an annuity for that amount and could pay all the employees actuarially for the rest of their lives, depending on what plan they choose, and there would be enough money in the account to pay all those retirees out.
Okay.
Well, theoretically, we're underfunded right now by $362,000.
So in theory, we couldn't pay it all out. We'd be 300 grand short.
Most likely, everybody's benefits would have to be adjusted down. So if I go online today and I look up and say, hey, I want to retire at the end of this year, what are my benefits? I say, well, we estimate your benefits to be monthly this amount. But if something happened, like the legislature were to do away with property taxes and get rid of appraisal districts, they'd say, well, that was an estimate because now you're not putting any more money into the system. Now we got to look at what we actually have in the system. And so my benefits would be less. One of the things that I've never brought to this board was, what is your thoughts on this unfunded liability? I've had other boards in the past that they were like, we're in the 90s. That's pretty good. I've had some board members like, we need to be at 100. We need to be fully funded. And they took a real aggressive approach to get fully funded. This board, I really don't know where they sit, because I've never brought this to them and said, hey, let's talk about this. Do you want to be 100% funded, or do you care? That type of thing. And so now I want to talk to you about some of the things that could get us closer to 100% funded. One of them starts back up at that retirement eligibility. Right now, the retirement eligibility is that you're age 60, or your vesting period is 10 years of service. That's what someone set back in. You got to work for 10 years to be 100% vested.
Okay.
Not recommending that we change that.
Yeah.
The next one, though, is the rule of 80 years of total age plus service. So there's a combination. If you're 50 years old and you've worked your 30 years, you meet the rule of 80. You're eligible to retire.
Right.
The other one is 30 years of service. As soon as maybe you went to work here at 18, you work here 30 years, you're eligible to retire. One of the things that I would like, those are really high hurdles.
Yeah.
And when we look around at other appraisal districts, I know Parker County is going through the same thing right now. They're at 80 years, the rule of 80, and they're also at 30. They're trying to work to get to 75 and 20.
Okay.
Just like I'm going to recommend to this board to look at too. One of the concerns was, well, if we change it to the rule of 75 and we go to 20-year service, will that cost us anything? The reality is that no, it won't cost us anything to change. In fact, it'll actually lower our unfunded liability a little bit. Now, what I'll tell you that it won't do, if we make this change and somebody like Susan, I'm just going to use her as an example. She's already met the qualifications that she could retire now based upon her age and service and so on, so things like that. But let's just say that we change it. It's not going to promote her to retire sooner with more benefits.
Right.
But if we lower this a little bit, what it does, and we've talked to TCR about this, what it does is it does allow someone to retire earlier, but they retire at a lesser amount.
Get a lesser benefit, right?
They retire their benefits. Say if you're 65 or you're 70 years old, you meet all this, you're going to get $8,000 a month for the rest of your life. But if somebody who's in their late 40s, 20 years of service, they want to retire, they haven't contributed all that time, so they may only retire with $5,000 per month.
Right.
So what happens there, if TCDRS has to pay out a lower amount, it lowers our unfunded liability requirements, and it actually will lower our required rate. And we did some scenarios, and I'll pass these out to you, just different ideas. And the first column is our current plan, just the same thing that you've got in your book. But we did a 75-20 with a COLA. And we'll talk about COLAs here in a second. A 75-20 without a COLA, and then the 2% pre-funded. Let's talk about the two middle ones right now. The 2% pre-funded will be the COLA only. Okay, only given a COLA. But let's look at the 75-20 column right there. What we would be changing is saying that the rule of 75 instead of the rule of 80. So a combination of age and years of service would make someone eligible to retire, or 20 years of service at any age. We hire somebody at 20 years old, they work here for 20 years. At 40, they'd be eligible to retire. Doesn't mean that they could afford to retire.
Right.
They'd be eligible to retire. But what it does is and you look at this thing right here, it actually would change our unfunded or our required rate of return to 10.83%. So it would actually reduce our retired amount. And while we're right now sitting at $378,000 unfunded liability, it would actually reduce that to $367,000 with unfunded liability. It's not a major change, but it does knock it down some. Now, another way we could reduce that unfunded liability, depending on what the pleasure of the board would be, is we could call it right there right about here on the paper. It's called an additional employer contribution, which the forensic audit showed that in the past, the appraisal district was doing some of these additional funded contributions.
They were taking money at the end of the year and saying, okay, this is left over. Let's plug it into this.
Now, I'm not recommending to the board right now that we take money left over and put it towards this. Any monies that we've had left over from 2025, which our audit is going to start next month.
Okay.
Any money that's left over right now, all of it is going to go back to the entities.
Right.
Because I'm a big believer, if you're going to commit money and spend money, you need to do it in the year in which you have access to the money. So right now we're in 2026.
Right.
If I come to you in November and say, look, I think we're going to have about $100,000 left over. I personally believe that this board has the right to say, you know what? Then let's commit that money in 2026 for this purpose. And I believe if you wanted to make some additional contributions to this to buy down the unfunded liability, I believe you could. And if we need to, like we did last year, I could do a budget amendment process where we'll say, we'll amend the budget. We're going to take money from here, move it here. We're not going to ask for any more money from the entities.
Right.
We're going to move money around.
Change buckets.
I would do that.
Yes, please do the budget amendment.
If we do that.
If we do that.
If we do that.
Yeah, I told the mayor, I said, if we ever do, we'll always do budget amendments going forward.
Yeah.
Even if we're just going to move money around. If it makes him happy, I'm all about it. So my point here is changing some of our retirement eligibility will help us on an unfunded liability issue. Considering adding additional money to the fund will help us on our unfunded liability. And I personally would like to see all TCDRS accounts up at around the 100% funded rate. Now, the COLA, cost of living adjustment. We've been in TCDRS now since 2017, 16.
Okay.
We've never provided any of our retirees with any kind of cost of living adjustment. Now, we looked into, when we talked to TCDRS and said, what would it cost us if we were to do a 2% cost of living adjustment? And that number's on the last column, $44,118.
And that would, I'm going to ask you, I apologize for interrupting you, but essentially what that would do is get caught up for any current retirees.
Yes.
Okay.
It would give current retirees a raise.
A 2%
It would not do anything to current employees that have not retired.
Right. Okay, good. And it's not going into anybody's particular retirement. It's going into their annuities.
The trust account.
The trust account.
Yeah, their monthly benefits would be adjusted. When I was at TAD had a big problem of giving COLAs every year, but they would never put any money in to pay for the COLAs. So it was almost like they were just refinancing the loan.
Yeah, so you're pulling it out. You're pulling it out of the unfunded
would
liability.
go up. Yeah. There was greater unfunded liability. I learned when I learned this, I said, we don't need to do this. If we're going to give a cost of living adjustment, we need to pay for it up front. And for them, when we would do anywhere from 1% to 2%, we were looking at about $250,000 upfront costs that we would have to send to TCDRS and say, okay, now we want to give these employees a cost of living adjustment. I'm not recommending today that you do the COLA yet. What I'd like to do is I wanted to introduce all of this to you, and I would like for you on the COLA to think about it. Again, 2016, it's been 10 years.
Mhm.
And these retirees, and how many are there? Six retirees. They've never had a cost of living adjustment in this system.
I definitely think that's something we should entertain.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do is probably look towards the end of 2026 to see how much money do we have left
That's-
over, and
yeah.
then decide, do we
Yeah.
want to.
I would do that before I would go after the unfunded liability.
Yeah. Now, what I would like for you guys to consider possibly taking action on today is consider changing the retirement eligibility from the rule of 80 to the
Mhm.
rule of 75, and the years of experience from 30 years to 20 years. We checked with TCDRS, that won't cost us any money.
Okay.
In fact, they would prefer that, because what happens is if somebody does decide to retire early and maybe not wait till 65 to retire, then it gives them that option to do so. And it also reduces they're leaving before 65, so they're not going to get the same benefits.
Right.
So then
Yeah.
now the trust account can handle that smaller payment out. But let's say somebody, maybe a husband and wife or something like that. Maybe the wife's at a certain spot or the husband's at a certain spot. They're ready to retire. It would give somebody the option to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and retire.
Yeah.
If
Or-
someone retires early,
Yeah, if they retire early.
say they retire at 45,
Right.
do they have to take the retirement payment, or
They
can
don't.
they defer it and start taking it when they're 65?
Yes,
when
they
it would
can.
be a larger amount, obviously.
Yeah, the only larger amount's going to be the amount it grows through it by interest, but they wouldn't be putting in any more money, and the district wouldn't be putting in any more money.
Should also be, I imagine there's an actuarial amount that they pay out. So if it was a shorter life expectancy, that
Right.
should boost the amount as well.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
gain interest and they gain a shorter term.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly.
But we're also dealing with some generations now that they don't stick in any one particular job very long. And so kind of another thing that this does, and we've thought about it several different ways. Sometimes you might have employees that that you hope that they can retire someday,
Yeah.
maybe sooner rather than later. Giving them this option, maybe they'll go on and do great things.
Right.
Somewhere else. Yeah. I say that kind of in jest. But
Kind of.
it gives people options. And I also included in your packet, if you'll look at the second page, this graph right here, this is a really telling graph. And the one thing that I want to say this is maybe for the public's information as well. Pensions have gotten a bad rap over the years, especially with fire and police pensions. And it's situations in which, I worked 20 years as a firefighter. When I retired, I made more money in retirement than I did while I was a firefighter.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that City of Fort Worth has been in the paper in the past with regards to their pension issues and stuff like that. This chart right here basically says that if you're hired in at 55 years old and you retire at 65, you're going to basically get in benefits about 22% of whatever your final salary was. You're not going to be making more. And then even at that big one down there, if you were hired in at 35 and you worked 30 years and retire at 65, you're going to get about 85% of your final salary. So with this pension system that's set up, which the counties are operating under and appraisal districts are operating under, there's not many people that I know of, unless they had additional savings going into a 457B, like a 401k plan, unless they were putting money into that too, and now they're drawing from both, are they ever going to be able to come out and say, I'll make more money in retirement than I did?
Yeah.
The abusive public pensions usually have a calculation that heavily weights it to the last year worked.
Yes.
And you have people who suddenly work a ridiculous number of hours in their last year.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, I agree.
That happened in Atlanta all the time.
Yeah, I agree. But so if I could, if we want to move on to the action item part of this, my recommendation to the board would be to go ahead and plan to make the changes from the rule of 80 to rule of 75 and go from 30 years of service to 20 years of service. Again, not costing us anything. And then I will bring back to the board in a later board meeting. Maybe we have to do it by December. So it'd probably be either October and November board meeting to say, okay, do we want to do the COLA?
And I'll also comment that I'd like to see us over time get to that 100% funding. And that's, if that's not 1 year,
Right.
But it's,
Yeah.
within 5 years, I'd certainly like to see us there.
Well, when you're, the
Get
cool
closer
thing,
to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
cool thing is you see that 367,000, and that would be, that's sort of what we need to pay off. Now, I will tell you this, is that required rate is calculated by TCDRS to say, using that rate, because the idea is that the employee puts in 7%, the district puts in 7%. But because we have an unfunded liability, we're putting in 10.8 or 11.18 and then, or 10.8, because they're amortizing that unfunded liability over like a 20-year period so that it'll get paid off. So we are working towards paying that off. Now, I think there's two other ways that we could do this, Richard, and that is one, during the budget process, we could come back and say, instead of 11.18 or the 10.83 that's going to be required in 27, let's put in 15%. So it's like we're making extra payments.
I'd like to put, say, 50,000 a year in the budget.
Yeah.
And I mean, be upfront with the tax, put it in the
absolutely.
budget, and say, here's what we're doing, so that over time we get closer.
No,
And then over time, it actually saves us money because then that 10.7 drops to the 7% we're supposed to be doing anyways.
Yeah, once you get to 100% funded, things get a lot easier.
Yeah.
I've seen places like Dallas Appraisal District that was putting in their required rate was nearly 25%. And probably due to the fact that they would give cost of living, but not put any money toward cost of living. It's just like tack it on to the end of the loan.
Yeah.
Now,
so the one question I've got, you've got the 75/20 with the COLA.
Yeah. No,
Is that a COLA for the future, or is that the COLA we're talking about for the past?
That would be the COLA for the current retirees.
Current retirees. Okay. Perfect.
None of this, I want that to be very clear, none of this is going to add any money to any employee's account. The only thing that's going to add any money to the employee's account is they keep working there and they keep putting their 7% in.
Correct.
And then it grows at a rate of 7%. So there's interest that everyone's making, and there's contributions that everyone's making.
Right.
It's the only way that they get.
My question was, that's not us setting up a COLA for the future to be continual.
No, it
I don't
would
know if I
be,
said that right, but
yeah, that COLA amount, they'll take that 44,000, do an actuarial on it and say, okay, if all these retirees get 2%, then we're going to change their monthly payment from from 2,000 to 2,200,
2,400,
whatever it would come out to. And then that money goes into like the annuity trust side of it, and it's just there, and they pull out money from there, and it grows and all sorts.
$40 a month for that person making 2,000.
Exactly.
It's not a dinner out anymore.
No, it's not a lot. I'm just making up these numbers because I have no idea what any of these retirees are making on their monthly benefits.
Yes, John.
We can see all the stuff, but one of the things we can't see is how much is in any of their accounts.
Okay, I don't want to go off the topic, but I guess a point of curiosity for me. The 75/20, how does that compare with the taxing entities, what they do?
No, I don't know. Do you know what the county, the only other taxing entity that is on TCDRS is the county.
The county.
Yeah.
I think I'd just like to look at that as a point of comparison to make sure that we're not doing something that's way out of line with what they're doing.
Well, I can't honestly answer that question. I can tell you that 75/20 is not way out of line with what other appraisal districts are doing.
Which is positive.
Yeah, TAD did 75/20. I believe Dallas was 75/20. Parker County's trying to move to 75/20. But I don't remember what the county's doing. We used to have
it's easy enough to find out.
there used to be a document. We had a document somewhere that lists. I know that the county is it a 120% on the prior. Yeah, we know that because there was such a conversation about our having a prior year service credit, and ours was 90. And I remember we had that conversation here, and when we told the audience what it was, Commissioner Eagle kind of was like, "Really?" I'm not sure he even knew that the county had 120% prior year service credit.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't remember what their funded ratio or their retirement eligibility was.
Following up on that, when does this decision need to be made?
Officially in December.
Okay.
You got time.
Very good. another one of those questions. Doesn't have to be made in June.
No,
so-
we're getting into the budget.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'll have a budget ready to present tonight. But just as Richard has said, if it's his desire
Mhm.
to maybe set aside $50,000 to go towards our unfunded, I need to get that in the 27 budget. So I wanted to have a little bit of conversation tonight about it. I'll have to either budget some for COLA for next year or come back with, hey, we have $100,000 left over. We could put 44,000 of
Yeah.
it towards the COLA, something like that.
I like that idea.
And I don't really know right now what we'll have left over at this point in time. We're way too soon.
Not even halfway through the year
Yeah.
yet. So yeah. So then, might I have you make a motion that we table this to next month so that the chief appraiser could go find out what the county does?
Absolutely. All right. Then I recommend we table this with the proviso that the chief appraiser look at well, for next month.
Yeah, the county's retirement
Yeah,
eligibility.
look at the other entities.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second that we table this item and have the chief appraiser go to the county to get their setup of what their service credits are. Is there any other discussion?
I did only have one other question for you on this
Please.
one. So obviously I'm kind of at the same, I'm with everybody here at the table as far as I want to get this thing close to 100%, if not 100%, because we're just paying extra money out that we don't need to by having that unfunded. Just like general info, how are we going ahead and at the unfunded liabilities right now?
All we're doing is paying the required amount.
So we're making it slowly, but it's going to take us 20 years to pay it off.
When the talk about the forensic audit started coming up, initially the focus was all about the building, the architects, the engineers and stuff, but then slowly that focus began to shift to the TCDRS thing. So obviously, since that was such a big issue, I took the approach that we're not doing anything until that forensic audit is done and everybody, all the cards are on the table and everybody can see exactly what happened and what's gone on. We took the position to take no action. Now, prior to that, though, there were funds that were either budgeted for, that was additional funds that were budgeted for that were sent to TCDRS, or they would look at it and say, oh, we've got an extra $200,000 in the budget. Let's throw some money towards it. And there was some active steps to kind of hit that unfunded liability. I will tell you from my days at TAD, I had some board members that were kind of like you guys were talking that I wanted us to get it 100%. And I remember one time, TAD would have anywhere around $2 million left over. We had a budget that was 10 times our budget.
Yeah.
So we were sitting there, but I remember one time we sent $750,000 to TCDRS just to go to the unfunded liability. But that was the biggest payment that I've ever been a part of making, $750,000. But it does take exactly what Richard's saying. You either put money in the budget and say it's earmarked for going towards this unfunded liability, or you say instead of the 10.83 required rate we got to pay, let's put in 15%.
Yeah.
That's another way to do it. And that way, every payroll that Meg does, instead of sending the 10.83, we'd send 15%. And it's like just making a payment. Of course, we would put that in a different part of the budget too, because we would have to put in our retirement contributions for that. So you could do that either way.
Yeah, it works either way.
Yeah, either way. And or you could do it like we said, maybe set the required rate at 15%, and then look at the end of the year and say, do we have an extra $10,000 that we could throw down there, $20,000, whatever, and then you could do a budget amendment and push a little bit more money that way. But that way, the taxing entities are the ones that are going to pay this. Because they're either going to pay it out of unused revenue that we didn't spend, or they're going to pay it through a budgeted line item that we're going to try to spend.
Yeah.
But I think it's very, very good. And with more of the state legislatures proposing doing away with property taxes, it'll make employees sleep a little better knowing that their retirement is more stable.
It's covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can assure you, nobody's going to get rich on the retirement plan. They're
No, not at all.
they're going to be compensated based upon what their salary
A-
was and what they put
A
in.
percentage of.
Yeah, but there's not going to be any. There's not going to be any that are making more in retirement than they're making now.
All right. Any other questions?
Oh, I will ask another one again.
Come
General info. Again, I know that like with the retirement system regarding the teachers, whenever they go ahead and they pay into that, they're not able to go ahead and get Social Security. Is it the same thing with TCDRS, or do they still get Social Security?
No, they still get Social Security.
Okay.
We are a district that when all appraisal districts got started back in the 80s, they had the option to jump in or jump out of Social Security. This one jumped into Social Security because initially we did not have TCDRS. We didn't get TCDRS until 2016. So the retirement system here was contributions into a 457B plan or like a 401k and Social Security. Now, when we switched over to TCDRS, and Eddie Rodriguez was the chairman, we talked about the idea of getting out of Social Security because we still give the employees the option to fund the 457B plan. The district doesn't fund the 457B at all. We fund the TCDRS system. But we found out that there was a date in which the Social Security cut that off where there's no hopping out. So it's like, we're in.
They did it to teachers too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I guess you can't hop out, you can't hop in, right?
Right.
Okay.
So with teachers years ago, you could retire, go work a year or two on a Social Security job, and then go back to work as a teacher, and then get both full retirements.
Oh, okay.
And Texas cut that. It's been 10,
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah, it's a whole nightmare for them. Once they go ahead and they opt into the teacher retirement service, they have to forfeit the Social Security side.
Yeah.
Well, here we don't have that. We did have a thing called a windfall elimination process, but actually President Trump in his second term actually did away with that. So now, and I tell people like this, like for me, and I don't mind saying this, but my estimated Social Security benefits was going to be $1,700 a month. Because
Yeah.
I worked here 10 years and I paid in while I was here, but then I was gone for 15 years. So it's $1,700 a month. Well, I was banking on through that windfall elimination thing that I probably would get maybe $1,000 a month out of Social Security. It was going to be that big of an impact, but now supposedly President Trump did something to where that windfall elimination procedure is gone.
Yeah.
So now I might get $1,700 a month. I don't know.
Yeah.
When I'm 62.
One
Something like that.
of these days down the road.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
You're asking good questions. So, all right. Then our motion in front of us is to table this and have the chief appraiser gather some county information to come back to us. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passes. To my knowledge, that's our last action item. Do we need to recess for anything?
No, there's no.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Then chief appraiser's report.
Yeah, appraisal operations. Appraisers are talking to taxpayers right now. We sent out appraisal notices on April 15th. Protest deadline was May 15th. And on May the 14th, I think we had about 2,000 protests filed. And then after we got all the mail in on May the 15th, I think we're up to about 4,600 protests, which is about in line with what we had last year. So not really any big shift or surprise. But we are working very diligently to try to find, I like to call it common ground between us and the taxpayers. And I'm kind of happy to say that every time I looked in on the ARB today and this week, they've been sitting here not doing anything, which means that staff is settling cases or property owners are just not showing up.
Yeah.
I think one of the things
Or
that
they're quickly walking in going, we can do that.
yeah.
Getting back out. Yeah.
One of the things I think happens very often is we send the appraisal notice out to the property owner. The property owner's like, oh my gosh, this is awful. They go file a protest and then they go talk to their local realtor and it's like, oh, I didn't realize things were selling for that high.
Yeah. And
then they don't come back. They don't call us and say,
They don't
cancel
the
my
appointment. Yeah.
protest, but they just don't show up. But everything's going as planned with the appraisal side of it. It's just working the appeals process.
Now, I have a question along the value and appeal process. If someone were to buy a house today, May 15th is passed, they buy it for $200, but the county has it appraised at $250. can they still come in and talk to the appraiser about an appeal, or is that pretty much already set and they got to wait
That-
until next year?
That's pretty already set.
Okay.
There is something in the law called a 2525D motion. And for homeowners, if they can show that we're wrong by 25%, a substantial error, they can file a 2525D motion and have a hearing just like they would for a protest.
Okay.
But 200 to 250,
Yeah.
is what you said?
Yeah.
Um,
So you're at
I don't
25%.
think- Yeah,
there,
you'd
but
be right at the threshold there.
Yeah.
If you're a non-residential person, then that hurdle is brought up to 1/3. The value has to be incorrect by more than 1/3.
Okay.
So there is some, we call them substantial error corrections, and those can be made. But
Yeah.
most people don't fall within that
Right,
threshold, and they're technically done.
Okay.
So they would need to make an appeal for the next year.
Okay.
So, any appraisal related questions? Collections operations, we are, and I've kind of already given some of this, we are in the end stages of the collections. Property taxes went delinquent February 1st. And now here we are at the end of May, and we're at 97.147. And at the end of May, and technically we still have a few more days of May left, but at the end of May of 2025, we were at 97.5.
Okay.
97.5. And so by the time we turn them over, like I said, to the delinquent tax attorneys, at the end of June of 2025, last year, we were at 97.905. So 98, let's just say. So we'll be in pretty good shape for that. Actually, though, we collected, I think Meg told me we collected over $500,000 yesterday. That went deposited.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
that got
sir.
deposited yesterday. So $500,000 came in yesterday.
All right.
And when I looked at the uncollected amount for this past month, we were in the 5 million range, and now we're at 3,999 or 991.
Okay.
So there's still $3 million worth of uncollected value out there.
Okay.
Be curious to see how much it comes down to when we finally turn it over. But that's pretty much it for the collections reports.
Okay.
The district operations, we've kind of set some chief appraiser report items out here. I don't really have a whole lot to report on the district operations because we're just in the throes of protest right now.
Right.
That's what all of our focus has been on. I will get the budget. I will get you a budget number out probably here pretty soon. I have to send a preliminary budget to the taxing entities by June the 15th.
Okay.
And we're waiting on a few more numbers so I can finalize my estimate. Probably what I'll do is send that out to you guys before I send it out to the taxing units. My goal is going to try to be a zero kind of base budget from a standpoint that we're just going to try to keep the same budget this year as we had this next year as we had this year. I'm trying to do that. As you all know, we lost Eric Watkins, our
I was going to ask that
appraiser.
pathway. So
Yeah, and we have made an offer to a gentleman to come in and take his place.
Okay, good.
A man that's actually out of Wise County right now. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say that. He might not have told his bosses up there yet. But we do have an offer out. He's accepted it. So I'm going to be able to reset the budget a little bit there.
Okay.
We're going to realize some savings there.
That was a question that
Yeah.
I had. So good.
Yeah, we're able to get him a little bit cheaper than we were able to get Eric. So
Okay.
that's some of the adjustments that I got to make in that. But that will be forthcoming. At that point in time, you can decide whether or not you want to have a called meeting to sit down and talk about the budget. Even though I send a budget to the taxing entities on June, that's not the adopted budget.
Right.
We won't actually have a budget hearing and adopt the budget until most likely August. It'll give the taxing entities the opportunity to have some time to look at it and come back with any comments that they have for us. Keep in mind that we're not asking the taxing entities to approve this budget. The taxing entities have no authority whatsoever to approve our budgets. What they do have the authority to do is once you've adopted it, they have the authority to disapprove that budget if they choose, if a majority of them file resolutions to do so. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. We're not asking them to approve anything.
Right.
We're just saying The law says I got to send it to you, and we are hereby sending it to you.
Here it is. Are you okay?
If you can come to our public hearing, which I would hope, to be honest with you, that when we send it to them, if anybody has a problem with it, they'd call me and say, "Hey, let's talk about this.
Right.
Let's talk about this XYZ issue."
Historically, they haven't.
No, they haven't. In the
Therein
3
lies the
years-
problem.
Yeah.
They
The
don't.
years I've been here, they've never called me up and said, "I got a problem with this area or this area."
Right.
The mayor came the closest last year when he kind of came to a couple of meetings and kind of
I was gonna
expressed
say there
his
was
concern.
one year there was a couple spoke at the last minute.
Yes.
Where were you 2 months ago?
Yeah, and they get it early, so they have the right to come talk
Yeah.
to us early about it. But once I do that, then I'll let you decide whether or not you want to have a called meeting, maybe the 1st of July, just to go over it. But
Okay.
I'm going to try my best to make it to where it's either a little bit less, right on the same, or a tiny bit more.
Okay.
Try to keep it equal with what we've already done.
Well, we
I
got
think we can.
to be aware of inflation and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
and if we want to make sure that we're putting a little bit in,
Good to hear. I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
from you tonight, so that I'll make sure I add that in.
yeah, put that in.
And I'll look to, I'll look also if, what would 15% do versus the 11%, and then, will that equal 50,000? And I might use your 50,000 number as a benchmark to say, well, that means 14%, or it might mean 16%. We'll see.
Okay.
And then we can always adjust that as need
Perfect.
be.
Yeah, that sounds good. I was about to go ahead and ask you about that since we're talking about the preliminary budget. So yeah.
So with that, that's all I got on that. You guys got any questions that I need to address, answer?
When does the new taxing entity for the Lakeside Landing?
Oh, it will
come in.
go on the tax bills in 26. Let's don't call it a taxing unit. It's going to be called a PID, a public improvement
I think I
district.
forgot the term
Yeah.
for it.
Public improvement district. And what we're going to have to do is, I had a meeting this morning with the city of Granbury, Chris Kaufman and Ava. They came down and visited with me a little bit, but
Do they become a new taxing entity, or are they just part of the city's tax
no,
bill?
it's going to be a completely different assessment because one.
Well, it's by square footage. I know.
Exactly. So it's not the standard ad valorem taxes. Ad valorem is a Latin phrase for according to value. So this will have nothing to do with value. It has everything to do with square footage.
Oh,
So
my.
what we have to do is we have to submit
my.
the accounts to the consulting firm that's working with the city, and then they will come back and they will tell us the assessment for each account, and we will plug that assessment in on each one.
So,
So, in fact, the city's tax collection gets bigger, so their share of paying our fees goes up a little bit.
Well, I don't think so, Richard,
No.
because since this is not an ad valorem tax, this is just an extra assessment that they're putting on these properties, and it's not really part of their tax levy. Because I think
do we need to ask Braden that question?
we can. But the PIDs that I had up in Tarrant, they never got added into as part of the tax levy that would adjust any of the taxing entities' allocation.
Well, it's not associated to the city. It's not part of the city tax.
So then
It's own. It's own.
is it its own entity that now we're at 12 rather
Yeah.
than 11?
No, I don't think so.
So that's another,
Because-
it's got to go somewhere.
Because if
It's
that was
money
the
we're
case,
collecting.
then
Well, it's going to them.
Right, but where does it fall in our percentages?
I don't know.
I think that's the question.
That's the root of my
You
question.
know what? I don't.
Where does it fall in our
Well,
percentages?
if it did that, then you would have to give them the right to vote on the board.
Right.
Yeah.
And they would be one of those entities that wouldn't be eligible to vote on the board. Because they're not levying a tax, they're levying an assessment.
We need to ask Braden.
I don't know, we got 4 attorneys in here. I'm sure
Any ideas?
I'm gonna be like every other person out there. You went to law school, right? Don't you know everything about the law? No, I can ask Braden on it, but I'm pretty certain that since this is not a tax, it's an assessment based upon the size of the land that
Mhm.
that particular property owner will have.
Messes with those percentages somehow.
I can't even calculate
You're
it.
probably right.
I can't even calculate it.
So
I
that's
have
my
to be
question.
told what the
Who
assessment
pays
will be.
that consultant? Are we paying that
No,
consultant, or is the city paying
the
that
city's
consultant?
paying that consultant.
Okay, good. That's another budget
Yeah.
item line. I was then when you said consultant was automatically scared of.
Yeah. And the other good thing about it too, initially, is that whoever the developer is, this first year, the developer is most likely going to be paying all the assessments. All
Yeah.
the property are still in the name of the developer.
Yes, 5 years from now, we'll have 300-400 different.
Yeah,
payers.
actually,
Oh my gosh.
Jody told me it was 196 different accounts. I think that's about the total number of accounts that it'll wind up being, it's about 196.
Interesting.
We literally are not raising it. We're literally, all we are doing is just collecting it. Any issues, the city has to deal with it. Anything about it, we're just literally collecting it. That's it.
So then it's not really going, I mean, it's going through our books, but
Yeah.
it's not a tax that we're, okay.
It's going to be on the tax bill, and there is a special law out there that says that we can put it on the tax bill.
Okay.
And was lots of conversations over the fact that we need it to be on the tax bill so that we can make sure it gets paid.
That was, they want us sending it out so they get paid. If they
Because,
send it out, they
yeah,
don't get paid.
Exactly. And there's also something in the law, these guys probably know more about this than I do. There's something in the law too, that if it's not paid, it gets assessed the same penalty and interest that an ad valorem tax gets assessed.
Because we sent it out.
And it has the same collection, liability. I mean, you could foreclose on it if it's not, enforcement, thank you. The same collection
Interesting.
enforcement options as an ad valorem tax. Because we initially were telling them, we're not collecting it.
Yeah.
Because
we're not, we initially
collect
thought, we're like,
taxes.
we don't touch that. Yeah.
and once they finally laid out, I had our attorney listen to it too, and he was like, no, it'll be easy for us to collect because it works just like a property tax. It's just somebody has to tell me this is how much this lot gets assessed, this is how much this lot gets assessed, and this, because I can't, I gotta take a tax rate and apply a value.
Right.
That's not,
And you don't
that's not
have
the
either.
case here.
Interesting.
That'll go on the October tax bills.
We're not paying the consultant. That's what I care about.
No,
We're not paying the consultant.
And we don't have a new taxing entity to deal with.
Exactly.
no,
Well,
right.
we don't know that answer yet.
I'm 99.9% sure.
I think so
we
too,
don't
but it's
have to
just,
deal with
since
it.
it's going into in and out of our coffers.
If we didn't collect, all we would be responsible for is drawing a line around the PID
Yeah.
and saying, here's the accounts in the PID,
Here you go.
and handing that off to the collector.
Right.
So they can put the assessments on those accounts. But we collect right now.
Yeah. Okay.
I did have a, yeah, I got all that look saying right now.
I'm just like,
We have gotten our first contract back, from Lipan ISD.
Okay.
I do need to talk to y'all. This is a question you're asking me, right?
yes.
Do you want me to bring all those, contracts back? I probably need to come back in June because when we looked at the minutes, y'all gave me the authorization to, send out the contracts, let people know, but the motion didn't say, and for me to sign the contract. So I need to kind of either bring them back to you guys.
Yeah.
And you give me the authority to sign them, or we need to kind of tidy that up. But
Okay.
right now I've gotten my Pan school districts back. Granbury City came in and talked to me today. They're going to put theirs on their next agenda meeting.
Good.
I think Travis Stillwell down in Toller, I think he's going to get it on there. I think they're all going to be on. I haven't had anybody.
I don't know
come
if
back.
I don't think Granbury did it last night or Monday.
I don't-
They didn't.
I haven't. They didn't.
Yeah.
So I haven't had any kickback or any questions what we're going to do. I did tell the city today, kind of funny. I was like, well, we have this contract, and if you want to collect your own taxes, you don't.
You are welcome to it.
They were like, no. So I had to kind of pull that on for a little bit.
Yeah. Good.
That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah. So let's make sure we get the contracts on the next agenda so we can set up. Any other questions for Jeff? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. We got a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 6:19.